Good evening, dear listener. Somewhere in your evening, you've chosen to pause. Maybe you've turned off most of the lights, leaving only a soft glow in the corner of the room. Maybe you're already lying down, blankets gathered around you, feeling the gentle weight of the day finally begin to loosen its hold. Wherever you are, this is your time now. A quiet little harbor at the edge of night. Take a slow breath in and a long, easy breath out. If you'd like, let your body settle a little deeper into whatever is holding you. Notice the simple comfort of fabric against your skin, the way your shoulders can drop just a bit, as if they've been waiting all day for permission to rest. There is nothing urgent here. No messages to answer, no tasks you must complete, just the slow, steady rhythm of your breathing, arriving and leaving like small, soft waves. Tonight, we're going to drift far from the noise of the modern world, back to a time before cities, before stories were written down, before anyone gave names to stars. We're traveling gently toward the first whispers of a myth that would later grow into temples, statues, and songs. But we won't rush toward any of that. We'll stay with the quiet parts, the spaces between the words, the calm that existed before everything had a shape. Before we drift deeper into tonight's gentle journey, remember to subscribe to Americana History Asleep. Here, you'll always find peaceful stories that soothe the heart and quiet the mind. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. In ancient Greece, storytellers once spoke of the beginning of everything as a simple, vast emptiness. They called it chaos. Not the noisy chaos we imagine today, but something gentler. An open, quiet space waiting to become. A yawning, peaceful openness, a gaping nothingness without form or direction. Like an endless mist stretching in every direction, neither kind nor cruel, just there, waiting. Imagine that now as you lie here. Picture yourself floating in a space with no edges. There's no up or down, no cold or heat, only a gentle, velvety darkness like the inside of a warm, familiar night. You are safe here. In this first, quiet version of the universe, there is nothing chasing you, nothing demanding your attention, just the feeling of being held in a vast, calm silence. If thoughts from your day drift in, half-finished conversations, worries, little to-do lists, you don't have to push them away. You can let them move through this soft, empty space the way clouds pass across a night sky. They appear, they linger for a moment, and then they slide quietly out of sight. The void is wide enough to hold them all without effort, as the old storytellers pictured it. This stillness did not last forever. Within the hush of chaos, gentle ideas began to gather, the way dew collects on grass at dawn. Not sudden explosions or violent storms, but slow, delicate formations of possibility. A sense of ground began to imagine itself. A sense of depth began to take shape. A sense of warmth shimmered like the first hint of a distant sunrise. One of those first soft ideas was Gaia, the earth. Not yet mountains and forests and oceans, but the feeling of something steady and supportive. Vast and unshaking. Imagine a presence beneath you that will never withdraw, never give way, no matter how many days and nights pass overhead. Gaia is like that, a calm, patient foundation, willing to hold the weight of seas, trees, and centuries without complaint. Another idea formed in the depths below. Tartarus, It isn't a place of punishment in this quiet beginning, not yet. Here, it is only depth itself, a reminder that for everything above, there is also a below, a silent, shadowed space where things can rest, hidden and undisturbed. If Gaia is the broad, steady surface, Tartarus is the deep exhale beneath it, a bottomless stillness that asks for nothing at all. And then there is Eros, not the restless desire of later stories, but a softer warmth, the gentle pull that draws things together. You might feel a small echo of that now, in the way your breath flows effortlessly in and out, or in the subtle way your body relaxes when you sense safety. Eros is the quiet yearning of the universe to connect, to reach out through the stillness and say, "Be near." In this early dreaming world, darkness and light begin to think of themselves too. From the soft vastness of chaos, a presence of night slowly unfurls. Nyx, not a night of fear or loneliness, but a deep, protective darkness, like a velvet curtain drawn around a sleeping child. Beside her forms Erebus, the gentle shadow of the world, not a threat, but a dimness that allows bright things to rest. In time, day will come as well, in the form of Hemera, and the silvery suggestion of dawn and dusk will glide across the sky. But for now, we linger in the first night, in the tender arms of Nyx, where stars have not yet learned to shine and everything is allowed to simply be. As you listen, you might notice your own breathing has slowed, matching the pace of this quiet universe. The rise and fall of your chest, it's like a small world forming its own tides. There is no need to stay particularly alert. If your thoughts begin to blur at the edges, if your attention wanders in and out like a tide, that's perfectly all right. This story is here to hold you, whether you catch every detail or let it wash gently past. Tonight's tale is not about battles or heroes, not about clashing swords or roaring storms. It is about the slow unfolding of a world, the way a flower opens petal by petal. In the first light of morning, it is about how the sky found its place above, how the earth settled below, how light and dark began their patient dance. And it is about the gentle understanding that everything in existence, even our worries, even our hopes, is part of a larger, quieter story. So, as we begin, you don't need to memorize names or follow every thread of history. You can simply let the rhythm of the words escort you towards sleep, like a small boat carried by a calm, steady current. If you'd like, you can close your eyes now, or soften your gaze, and imagine that first, endless night stretching overhead. In the next moments, the nothingness will begin to breathe. The sky will rise. The earth will open her arms. But for now, let yourself float in that peaceful, waiting dark, suspended between what was not yet and what is quietly on its way. In the gentle vastness of that early dreaming universe, the stillness begins to shift. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, like the faintest stirring beneath a blanket, nothing rushes, nothing forces itself into being. Instead, forms emerge the way fog thickens over a meadow at dawn, quietly, with patience, as if aware that the universe is listening with half-closed eyes. Gaia, the quiet earth, grows more certain of herself. What was once only an impression of steadiness begins to gather shape. Imagine soft land rising from a sea of darkness, but not abruptly, more like a long, deep inhale of the world. Hills roll out first, rounded and gentle. Valleys follow, curved like cupped hands. broad plains stretch across the stillness, as if smoothing themselves like a bed of silk. Everything she becomes feels meant to cradle, to hold, to support anything that will one day walk, grow, or rest upon her. The old storytellers said she was vast and unshaking, and perhaps you feel a version of that now. The quiet reassurance of a floor beneath your feet, or the mattress beneath your body, something solid, reliable, that won't vanish beneath you even when your mind drifts beyond waking. Gaia is that feeling multiplied across the entire breadth of existence. Above her, something begins to shimmer. A presence not yet sky, but the idea of it. There is a soft upward pull, like the moment a curtain is lifted to let in morning light. In this slow blooming, another being unfurls, Uranus, the sky. Not explosive, not sudden, but gentle, as though he rises on a current of breath. He spreads outwards in a dome of dark, a starless velvet, setting above Gaia the way a protective canopy stretches over a resting traveler. When the ancient poets described this moment, they spoke of Uranus embracing Gaia, stretching across her like a vast eternal shelter. You might imagine them now, the earth below, steady and patient, and the sky above, wide and calm, their presence forming a quiet world between them. There is no thunder here, no flash of lightning. The early universe is content to feel its own beginning. The darkness remains soft, like a warm, endless night. Nyx, the goddess of this still night, moves gently through the silence. If she had footsteps, they would be quieter than snowfall. Imagine a figure made of shadow, but not the frightening kind, more like the cool comfort of closing your eyes after a long day. She drapes darkness across the forming world, tenderly as if tucking it in. Beside her lingers Erebus, the gentle shadow, filling the spaces where even Nyx does not reach. Together, they make the kind of darkness that helps the mind loosen, the kind that allows both gods and humans to rest. In time, a new presence emerges, Hemera, the embodiment of the daylight. She arrives not with explosive brightness, but with a faint glow that slowly brushes the edges of the horizon. Picture the first shy morning light slipping into a room. Not a beam, not a flood, but a quiet suggestion that soon colors will return. Every dawn in their myth is a soft transition, not a battle. Hemera does not chase Nyx away. They simply trade places, each giving the world what it needs. Nyx offers rest. Hemera offers clarity. One glides in as the other glides out, like two gentle breaths following one another in a peaceful rhythm. If you let your own breathing settle, you might notice you are already in sync with this ancient dance. Inhale, the faint brightening of day. Exhale, the tender descent of night. The universe itself seems to breathe with you. With sky and earth in place, Gaia begins to imagine new forms. Mountains rise like slow exhalations, their peaks soft at first, rounded and shrouded in mist. Rivers appear as delicate blue threads, murmuring promises of movement. Seas unfold like vast shimmering quills of darkness. But all of this happens with a gentleness that modern tellings often forget. There is no violence in their birth, only the quiet unfolding of a world eager to become real. You might imagine the first mountain as a sleeping giant, its ridges smoothing themselves against the early winds, or the first sea as a silent mirror, still and untouched, reflecting Uranus's newborn sky. Every creation is a moment of calm, a brushstroke added to a painting made entirely of peace. In these early moments, nothing competes, nothing demands attention. Each new element of the world takes its time, appearing only when the universe is ready to welcome it. And Gaia, mother of all that will be, continues to dream. From her vastness emerge forms that will someday shape the world's myths. Some gentle, some grand, but all born from the same quiet beginning. She dreams up mountains that can cradle clouds and forests that sway like lullabies in the wind, and fields that stretch endlessly toward the horizon. For a moment, imagine standing on this earth before anyone has walked upon it. A soft twilight sky above, a calm sea of grass around you, the faintest whisper of wind, everything new, untouched, and open. It's the kind of landscape where you could wander without worry, where every direction feels safe, where the world itself seems to breathe with you. The earliest stories say that Gaia loved the sky above her so deeply that she lifted him higher, raising Uranus so he could stretch wide and spacious over the world. This act didn't require strength or struggle. It was more like the natural easing of muscles, the gentle stretch after sleep. And in that opening space between earth and sky, the world as we know it slowly began to take shape. As the universe expands softly around them, new presences join the slow-moving dance. Light and dark weave through the days. The first winds begin to whisper across open plains. Oceans sway in long, rhythmic breaths. Every movement, every shift remains slow and soothing, like the rocking of a boat with a sway of tall grass. And in this early world, moments of beauty arise like sparks in the dark. A shimmer along the horizon hints at the first sunset. The glow of dawn blushes across the sky for the very first time. The light doesn't rush to conquer darkness, it hums beside it, sharing space. Their harmony becomes the world's first rhythm. Night follows day, day follows night. The cycle begins, smooth and eternal. A dance older than memory, older than myth. A dance that continues even now, outside your window, in the quiet turning of the world. As you listen, perhaps you can feel the slow rotation of that rhythm within yourself, the easing of your shoulders, the deepening of your breath. The understanding that night is not an ending, but a gentle hand guiding you toward rest. In this soft universe, nothing is hurried. Everything arrives exactly when it should. And Gaia, vast and unshaking, remains beneath it all, steady, supportive, patient. Whenever life feels overwhelming, it can be comforting to imagine this early Earth. A world before noise, before conflict, before history began its long, winding path. A world that existed only to be beautiful, quiet, and whole. And tonight, as we continue our journey, you are invited to rest within that world, to walk slowly, gently, into the next chapter of this soft, unfolding creation. Io is Birdie. The world, still wrapped in its early hush, begins to lengthen into something we might call time. Not the rushed time we know today, divided by clocks and alarms, but a soft, drifting current, like a river moving without urgency. In this slow current, creation continues to unfold, not in leaps or bursts, but in long, quiet gestures. Gaia, the patient earth, continues her dreaming. Within her, shapes take form with the gentleness of morning fog settling over a valley. From her imagination come beings who will one day populate the stories whispered across centuries. But here, at the beginning, they arrive in muted silhouettes, peaceful presences who stretch, breathe, and slowly come into their own. Among these early beings are the Titans. You may have heard of them in louder, more dramatic tales, their conflicts, their struggles. But tonight, we meet them in their first tranquil state. They are the children of earth and sky, born not into war, but into wondering. Their existence is quiet at first, like the gentle presence of mountains in the far distance, broad, powerful, but still, content simply to be part of the slowly forming world. Imagine them as tall shapes standing along the horizon, like ancient statues, unweathered by wind or rain. They look out across a landscape still cooling from creation, still humming with the faint warmth of the universe's first heartbeat. But they do not rush to claim or change anything. Like the early hills and seas, they simply stand, breathe, and exist. Time flows onward, unhurried. The first forests rise from Gaia's broad back in long, sweeping stretches of green. Trees appear like pillars, their leaves whispering in newborn winds. Their branches sway, not with urgency, but with a kind of thoughtful calm, as though they already understand the rhythm of life long before life fully blooms. Rivers find their paths, not by force, but by curiosity, meandering through valleys, circling gentle hills, shaping the land in slow, patient arcs. Wherever they pass, the world seems to sigh with contentment. It is in this peaceful setting that the three great brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, come into the story, though not in the dramatic fashion often told. We meet them here not as thunder-wielding rulers or shadowed guardians, but as quiet figures standing at the edge of a vast, forming world, feeling its breath, listening to its pulse. In this softer telling, their moment of division, the casting of lots to decide who will watch over which realm, is not a contest or a struggle. It is a ceremony, a gentle ritual, a simple agreement among three presences who understand that the world is vast and that there is room enough for each of them to find their place. Picture the three brothers standing quietly together, their hands resting over smooth stones warmed by the early sun. When the stones fall, it feels less like a decision, and more like the world gently choosing where each heart belongs. Zeus will watch over the sky, a natural choice, for he has always felt a quiet kinship with the open air. Poseidon will take the seas, drawn to their depth and movement, the way tides follow a rhythm much like his own calm heart. And Hades, thoughtful and measured, will tend to the realm beneath, a place not of fear but of rest, an underworld not yet shadowed, but simply deep. The world continues to expand beneath their guardianship, though even the word guardianship feels too forceful for this first chapter of existence. They are less rulers and more caretakers, gentle stewards ensuring that every corner of creation has the space to grow as it wishes. High on the distant peak of Olympus, a quiet glow forms. This is not yet the vibrant, throne-filled mountain of later myth. It is a serene place where the air is thin and cool, where clouds fold themselves against the stone like soft blankets. Olympus feels almost like a sanctuary, one the gods create, not through construction, but simply by gathering. Their presence alone makes the mountain a place of calm strength. In this soft dawn of time, the Olympian gods appear one by one, not with fanfare, but like stars revealing themselves in the early night. Athena emerges in a hush of clarity. She is wisdom, but not the sharp, academic kind. She is the gentle thought that settles when the mind becomes still. Imagine her presence as a steady glow, like a lantern in a quiet library, Apollo arrives with light that does not blind, but warms. His radiance feels like late afternoon sun brushing your skin, the kind that makes everything look softer and more possible. Artemis follows, carrying the essence of moonlit forests. In her presence, you can almost hear the sound of distant owls, the whisper of leaves, the stillness of midnight paths. She is both solitude and comfort, a reminder that darkness can be beautiful. A small, steady flame flickers into existence next. This is Hestia, not a warrior, not a queen, not a wielder of storms, but the gentle fire of the hearth, the warmth that greets you at the end of a cold day, the soft crackling of wood, the light you gather around when the world feels uncertain. Even among gods, her presence is humble, but it is also constant. The kind of warmth that never demands attention yet is always missed when absent. If you listen closely, you might imagine that flame now, a small, steady glow within the story, offering warmth without asking anything of you. Its comfort is the same comfort you feel when someone places a blanket over your shoulders or when a friend sets a warm cup of tea beside your hands. Everything about the early world feels like that, supportive, calm, unhurried. Even the creation of humankind follows the rhythm. When Prometheus shapes humans from the clay of Gaia, he does not rush. He molds slowly, thoughtfully, as though crafting each curve with care. When he gifts them fire, it is not a blaze, but a gentle flame. Something warm enough to protect, soft enough to comfort. As this quiet spark spreads through early humanity, people begin to gather around fires, sharing early stories. They look to the sky and see its dome stretching above them. They touch the earth and feel Gaia's strength beneath their feet. And somewhere between earth and sky, they begin to sense the presence of gods. Not as distant overseers, but as companions woven into the world's gentle fabric. The ages of humankind begin their slow turning. Though the golden age shines brightest, imagine a time with no hardship, no cold winters, no conflict, a world bathed in constant springtime, where fruit hangs full on trees and rivers run clear, where mornings feel like warm embraces and evenings bring the softest twilight. In this age, people live as though walking through a peaceful dream. They rise without worry, they work without strain, they rest without fear. The world itself cares for them, just as Gaia once cradled the earliest mountains and seas. And through it all, the gods remain near, not intruding, not ruling, but watching with gentle curiosity as humanity takes its first calm steps. In this soft telling, the journey of the world is not a line of battles or tragedies. It is a slow unfolding, like petals opening toward the sun. A world that grows the way a body relaxes into sleep, little by little, breath by breath. And so, with the universe still humming gently around us, we continue forward into the next quiet chapter. Onting Ne. As the world settles into its early rhythm, the universe begins to reveal small wonders, gentle discoveries that emerge like whispered secrets. These are not dramatic events or thunderous revelations. They are soft unveilings, the way sunlight gradually warms a room or how a memory drifts back just as you're falling asleep. In these quiet moments, the world feels alive in a new way. Tiny details shimmer against the backdrop of Gaia's vast calm, inviting anyone who notices them to slow down and appreciate their subtle beauty. One such discovery glides across the sky every day, the meeting of Nyx and Hemera. The ancient poets describe their passage almost like a dance. One enters the world as the other leaves, but they never cross paths. Nyx brings the deep velvet of night, folding it lovingly across the land. Hemera gathers it back each morning, revealing the soft glow of day. If you imagine standing on the early earth, you would see night drift away like a long, dark curtain being drawn aside, and in its place, light would bloom. No chase, no conflict, just two gentle presences trading roles, like caretakers exchanging shifts in a peaceful sanctuary. This soft cycle, night yielding to day, day slipping into night, becomes one of the world's earliest rhythms. Even now, thousands of years later, your body moves to that rhythm without you thinking. You wake, you rest, you breathe. The universe's old dance continues within you. And then, another wonder arises. On the shimmering horizon where the sea meets the sky, a delicate foam begins to gather. It rolls in softly, like lace forming on the edge of a wave. Within that foam, something begins to glow. A warm golden shimmer hidden inside the froth. Slowly, gently, a figure rises from the sparkling surface. She is Aphrodite, in her earliest, most peaceful form, not born from violence or struggle, but from the sea's quiet affection. Her first breath feels like the warmth of a sunrise touching cool water. Her first step leaves ripples that ring out in perfect circles, as though the ocean itself is singing a soft lullaby. Imagine her emerging on a secluded shore, where the sand is light and cool beneath her feet. Around her, the sky brightens with a gentle blush, and the waves lean inward as if greeting an old friend. This is not a dramatic entrance. It is a moment of beauty, born from stillness. You can almost feel the breeze that brushes past her, a breeze that might be brushing past you now, faint and refreshing. Aphrodite represents connection, tenderness, the first flutter of emotion that stirs quietly beneath the surface of the heart. Her presence softens the early world, reminding it that love, too, is a form of creation. These early gods, formed in gentleness, shape the world with the same calm spirit. The division of the cosmos, the sky, the sea, the underworld, happens not with violence but with quiet acceptance. Zeus watches over the sky, Poseidon over the waters, Hades over the deep places of the earth. Each realm feels balanced, peaceful, harmonious. Their care is like three steady hands guiding the world into maturity, and beneath all of it, Gaia continues her slow breathing. It is during this time that humans begin to develop stories. Not long epics or heroic tales, but soft murmurs beside evening fires. People gather at night, warmed by flames gifted long ago by Prometheus, and they speak of gods they have never seen but somehow feel. They imagine Nyx's dark wings sweeping across the sky at dusk. They imagine Hemera's bright footsteps returning at dawn. They imagine Aphrodite's shimmering arrival and wonder if beauty itself once stepped out of the sea. These stories become early threads of connection, threads that will later weave into myths, philosophies, and poems. Everything begins small, like a spark that grows into a comforting flame. The people of the Golden Age live simply, peacefully, under the guiding warmth of gentle gods. They wake each day in a world that nurtures them. Fields are fertile, trees hang heavy with fruit, rivers run clear and sweet. There is no cold season, no hunger, no fear. Life feels like a long, warm afternoon. You might imagine walking through a meadow in that first age. Soft grass tickles your ankles. The air smells faintly of blossoms and clean water. Birds, newly formed, curious, gentle creatures, sing in lilting tones that sound like early lullabies. Every sound is soft. Every color glows. Every breeze feels like a blessing. In this peaceful time, humans begin to shape their understanding of the world. They look at the movement of the sun and feel Apollo's warmth. They see the moon and sense Artemis' quiet companionship. They gather around the hearth and feel Hestia's steady presence. That hearth, that humble fire in the center of every home, becomes the first symbol of comfort. It is not grand, but it is constant, gentle, ever present, like a heartbeat. Hestia doesn't demand temples or praise. She needs no marble columns or golden altars. Her temple is every home where warmth is shared, where stories are told, where people gather to rest. Her flame flickers softly, though whispering, "You are safe here. Stay a while." In time, another discovery appears, not in the sky or the sea, but in the human heart. People begin noticing patterns in the turning of seasons, the rising of stars, the way certain flowers bloom only under certain moons. These patterns feel like instructions from the universe, gentle hints that everything is connected. Ancient thinkers believed that even fate, that mysterious thread woven through existence, was not frightening but soft. They described it as a tapestry quietly being stitched together by unseen hands, each thread laid in place with care. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, everything unfolding as it must. This idea brings comfort. It means that every life, every moment, every quiet joy or tender sorrow is part of a larger weaving, one that began before the first dawn and then continues long after each day ends. As centuries pass and cultures shift, these myths drift across the sea to other lands. The Romans, hearing these old stories, whisper the names differently. Zeus becomes Jupiter, Hera becomes Juno, Athena becomes Minerva. But the essence remains. The stories soften, change shape, and settle into new hearts. It is as if the myths themselves are living things, learning to breathe in different languages, carried gently by time. And so the world continues its slow evolution. The early gods, once vivid presences in the minds of storytellers, begin to step back, not disappearing, just becoming quieter, leaving room for humans to grow, to question, to create. They become whispers in literature, brushstrokes in paintings, melodies in distant hymns. You might imagine them now as faint silhouettes standing along the horizon of memory, still present, still watching, but calm, silent, and at peace. Soft discovery continues, even now, every time someone looks at the night sky and feels a sense of wonder. Every time dawn breaks and brings a quiet reassurance. Every time the sea glimmers in morning light. Every time a small flame warms a household. Every one of these moments carries an echo of the early world. Of Nyx sweeping darkness across the sky. Of Hemera returning the day. Of Aphrodite rising from the sea. Of Gaia cradling mountains, rivers, and dreams. And as you lie here, listening, breathing slowly, resting fully, you become part of that same quiet unfolding. The world is still full of gentle secrets, still full of rhythms older than memory, still full of beauty that reveals itself softly when you are calm enough to notice. And tonight, you are noticing. As the world matures and the ages drift softly onward,
the universe grows quieter in a way that feels almost contemplative, like the hush that settles over a home once everyone has fallen asleep. The gods, the earth, the sky, the sea, everything begins to move with a slower rhythm, as though pausing to reflect on what has been created. In this gentle stillness, something delicate reveals itself, the sense that all things, light and darkness, joy and sorrow, memory and hope, are connected by threads too soft to see, but strong enough to hold the world together. The ancient poets called these threads fate,
though not in the fearsome, unchangeable ways we often imagine. They pictured fate as something woven quietly into the very bones of the world. A tapestry stitched by unseen hands, each thread placed with care and patience. If you imagine it now, you might see these threads as faint lines of silver stretching across the sky, linking moments, hearts, and generations. They do not bind, they guide. They do not force. They follow the gentle shape of a life unfolding. And just as the world follows its own quiet pattern, so do the stories passed from one generation to the next. Over time, humans come to understand that myths are not merely tales of gods. They are mirrors reflecting the hopes and fears of those who tell them. When people gather around their fires at night, warmed by soft flames and wrapped in cool darkness, they shape the stories to match their own lives. The gods become guides, comforts, companions in thought. Zeus becomes the promise of open sky. Poseidon becomes the rhythm of the sea, steady and familiar. Hades becomes the depth of what lies beyond sight, a place not of dread but of mystery. Hestia becomes the warmth that never leaves. Aphrodite becomes the glow that softens the heart. Athena becomes the clarity that drifts in when the mind is calm. In these reflections, the gods are no longer distant beings on a high mountain. They are qualities, emotions, rhythms of nature. They are the symbolic language humans use to make sense of the universe. You might recall moments in your own life when nature offered you a kind of quiet guidance, when a sunrise steadied you, or a calm sea calmed you, or a forest path gave you space to breathe. These moments, too, are part of that ancient thread, part of the same story the earliest storytellers whispered beneath the stars. As human understanding deepens, so does the way the world is told. The myths shift with culture, blending into new philosophies. Greek stories drift into Roman minds, where names change but the essence remains. Jupiter instead of Zeus, Neptune instead of Poseidon, Pluto instead of Hades. Athena becomes Minerva, Aphrodite becomes Venus. It is as if the stories put on new clothing, but keep their familiar hearts. In Rome, the myths are softened further. Less thunder, more symbolism. Less fierce prophecy, more gentle metaphor. The stories become more reflective, more human, more intertwined with everyday life. And in this transformation, a soft truth emerges. Stories survive because they evolve, because they find new places to rest, new listeners to comfort. Even now, lying wherever you are, your room dim, your breathing slow, you are part of that long chain of listeners. You are someone who turns to stories not for spectacle but for stillness, for connection, for the soft companionship of a voice in the dark. The earliest storytellers understood something profound, that humans need gentle reminders of their place in the world. They need to feel the continuity between themselves and those who came before them. They need to know that even in uncertainty, They walk a path countless others have walked, guided by the same moon, warmed by the same sun, anchored by the same earth. And so, myths became a kind of comfort, a soft light held up against the unknown. In the old stories, hope is never loud or dramatic. It is small, persistent, like an ember that glows even when the fire has dimmed. In the tale of Pandora, when all manner of troubles are released into the world, hope remains. It lingers at the bottom of the jar like a gentle candle in a dark room. Proof that even in difficulty, something warm endures. That idea has followed humanity across thousands of years. Even today, when the world feels overwhelming, hope still flickers quietly in the corner of the mind, sometimes in the form of a memory, sometimes in a small act of kindness, sometimes in a story told at bedtime. Hope is the quietest of the gifts, but perhaps the strongest. As time moves on, the gods gradually step back, not disappearing, but becoming softer, subtler. They no longer stride across mountaintops or carve their desires into the world. Instead, they linger in symbols, in metaphors, in the quiet corners of the human imagination. The poets say that the Olympians left Olympus, but they did not leave humanity. They simply changed form. They became the hush of a forest at dusk, the glow of a hearth on a cold morning, the whisper of waves as they pull back from the shore. The comfort of knowing you are not alone beneath the wide ancient sky. They walk quietly now in books and stories, in the memories of old stone temples, in paintings lit by golden afternoon sun. They walk in melodies played on distant harps, in whispered prayers, in old manuscripts tucked away in libraries that smell of paper and time. Myths, in this gentle phase, are less about power and more about presence. They remind us to slow down, to notice, to breathe, to remember that our lives, too, have meaning woven into them. You might picture yourself now beneath that ancient sky, lying in soft grass, watching the stars shimmer into being. Each star feels like a small story, a memory of a time when the world was new. And as you watch, you sense something serene. The universe does not rush. It grows, it breathes, it endures, and so do you. Human life, with all its joys and worries, becomes part of this soft story. You are not separate from the myths. You are one of their latest tellers. When you reflect on your past, when you wonder about your future, when you search for meaning in the quiet hours of night, you are doing what humans have always done. This reflection, gentle and unhurried, brings a kind of peace, a sense that everything, past, present, and yet to come, is part of a larger unfolding, a sense that you too are held by the same calm forces that once shaped mountains and seas. The soft truths of the ancient world still whisper today. That time is a river, not a race. That rest is sacred. That stories are lanterns passed from hand to hand. That hope is a quiet flame that never goes out. And that in the grand tapestry of existence, you belong. And as we drift deeper into the story, deeper into night, the world grows quieter still, preparing for the gentle descent that leads towards sleep. The world, having woven itself into a tapestry of quiet rhythms, enters a moment of soft expansion, a gentle opening of understanding, like eyelids fluttering at the edge of sleep. This is not a dramatic climax, not the kind found in tales of battles or storms, but a turning point made of stillness, a hush a widening of the heart. It begins under an evening sky. Imagine standing on the early earth during twilight. The air is cool but not cold. The last warmth of the sun lingers on the horizon like a faint ember refusing to fade. A soft violet spreads through the sky, deepening into blue. Somewhere in that vastness, the first stars blink awake, shy and small. In this moment, you feel something ancient, the sense that the world is more than what you can touch, more than land, sea, or sky. There is a presence here, a quiet intelligence woven into the fabric of everything. It's the same presence the early storytellers felt when they looked up at the heavens and realized they were not alone, not disconnected, not drifting through a meaningless void. The sky in its immensity did not make them feel small. It made them feel held. It still does. As the first stars brighten, a story begins to unfold, not with words, but with light. Long before astronomers mapped constellations, before philosophers pondered the cosmos, humans sensed that the night sky was speaking in a language of silence. They believed the stars were distant fires tended by gods, or lanterns hung along the path of the heavens, or gentle eyes watching over the world. People didn't take these stories literally. They simply felt wonder blooming inside them, a realization that everything above mirrored something within. This is the soft expansion that marks the climax of our journey tonight. Over time, people sensed something tender in their stories, that the gods reflected gentle parts of their own hearts, about our longing to belong, about our need for connection, about the way we search for meaning in the spaces between our breaths. Under that early sky, humanity begins to feel this truth. A shepherd watching his flock at night senses the presence of Artemis in the moonlight, not as a deity, but as the calm that settles over the land. A sailor navigating by stars feels Apollo's clarity guiding him, not as a god with a bow, but as the reassurance that light always returns. A mother keeping her home warm through winter feels Hestia's flame glowing beside her, not as a goddess of the hearth, but as the small, constant love that flickers at the center of every family. The gods are no longer figures in the distance. They are qualities of life itself: wisdom, comfort, beauty, hope, resilience, wonder. Each one a soft presence that visits us in quiet moments. As this understanding blooms in the human heart, the myths shift, they evolve, becoming less about divine power and more about the gentle truths they carry. The world, in its early calm, opens itself to interpretation. Mountains are no longer just mountains. They are Gaia's shoulders. Oceans become Poseidon's breath. The sky becomes Uranus's embrace. Night becomes Nyx's velvet veil. These are metaphors, yes, but they are also bridges. Tiny, tender connections between the outer world and the inner life. You may have felt such bridges yourself, even without naming them. A sense of grounding when you walk barefoot on grass. A feeling of renewal when morning light enters through your curtains. A wash of quiet emotion when you stand before the sea. These are the same moments that shaped the earliest myths, the same moments that shaped the earliest human hearts. In this soft climax of the story, the world reveals another gentle truth. That time is not merely something that passes, and it is something that carries us. From the first rise of mountains to the first blooming of myths, time has moved like a slow river, patient and unhurried. It has shaped the world with kindness, not urgency. Even now, your life moves along the same current, unfolding with its own rhythm. You don't have to rush to meet it. You don't have to push against it. It carries you softly. As night deepens on the early earth, the wind begins to whisper through the trees. Trees that were once ideas in Gaia's dreaming mind. Their leaves rustle like pages being turned in an ancient book. Their trunks stand like tall old guardians who watch the world take its first breath. In this forest, Apollo's golden light fades into Artemis' silver glow, a gentle transition like the soft handoff between Nyx and Hemera. No chase, no haste, just the peaceful trade of responsibilities in the great rhythm of the world. You can imagine walking here. You can feel the soft earth beneath your feet, the warm memory of sunlight still lingering on the path, the cool breath of night brushing across your skin. The forest does not demand anything from you, neither does the myth, neither does the world. They simply invite you to rest within their quiet presence. As you walk, the trees part to reveal a clearing. In its center stands a small pool of water, perfectly still. When you approach, your reflection appears, not sharp or bright, but soft, blurred slightly by the faint ripples caused by the night breeze. For the ancient Greeks, pools of still water were places of revelation, not because they held magical powers, but because they mirrored the viewer's inner life. As you gaze into this imagined pool, you might feel a soft expansion in your chest, a realization that the stories you've heard are not separate from you. They were created by people who loved, feared, hoped, and dreamed just as you do. The gods were shaped not to intimidate, but to comfort, to offer language for feelings too deep to name. It is a beautiful thing to feel your life reflected in stories told thousands of years ago. It reminds you that you belong to something vast and continuous, a chain of humanity stretching across ages, a quiet chorus of voices whispering through time. In this moment of reflection, the pool shows you a final soft truth. That myth is not the opposite of reality, and it is a companion to it. Something that sits beside you in the quiet moments, something that steadies you when life feels unmoored, something that helps you make sense of the beautiful, complicated world within and around you. Above the clearing, the sky opens fully. Stars now shine with gentle brilliance. In their soft glow, you sense a shift in the universe, not an ending, but a widening, a gentle expansion of peace. And in that quiet moment under the endless sky, something feels different, not dramatic, not loud, just quietly, profoundly true. You realize that the world is not a place of isolation. It is a place of connection, a place where every life is a thread woven into a tapestry begun long before you and continuing long after. You are part of that tapestry. You are one of its soft, shining threads. And as we move forward into the next chapter, the world invites you deeper into its sanctuary of calm, toward rest, toward understanding, toward sleep. Ayun sa isang basin. As the soft expansion settles into the night, the world enters a deeper quiet, a kind of cosmic exhale. The myths, the gods, the stories, the forests, the early oceans, everything seems to pause, as if the universe itself is leaning back, letting all that has been created settle gently into place. This is the moment. In a sleep story, when the world doesn't change quickly, it slows, It softens, it deepens into something like rest. Imagine the early Earth at this point in time. The sky is clear, a deep, rich indigo stretching endlessly overhead. Stars sit in their places, not twinkling sharply, but glowing with a warm steadiness, like lanterns left on low light. The moon, round and patient, hangs just above the horizon. Its reflection shimmers on calm waters, the kind of water so still it could be mistaken for polished glass. Somewhere in the distance, gentle waves brush against a quiet shore. They come and go with the same slow rhythm as your breathing. Inhale. The tide comes in. Exhale. The tide drifts back. This is the world learning how to rest. The gods' once vivid presences shaping mountains and seas begin to soften too. They are still here, but their voices grow quieter. Instead of carving the world with skyfire or shaping oceans with tridents, they walk through the night like silhouettes made of memory. Athena's glow no longer shines like a lantern in the mind. It becomes a soft hum of clarity, like the moment just before drifting off to sleep, when everything makes sense in a gentle, distant way. Apollo's radiance is no longer bright and golden. It is the warmth left on your skin after a long day, lingering in the air like a memory of sunlight. Artemis' moonlit presence becomes a feeling rather than a figure, a quiet reassurance that night belongs to beauty as much as day. Even Zeus, in this softened world, is less the wielder of thunder and more the guardian of open sky. His presence is the calm vastness above, protective and endless. And deep below, in the underworld, not a realm of terror but of stillness, Hades becomes the keeper of rest, of endings that are not cruel, of transitions that feel like returning home. In this early version of the world, his realm is a sanctuary, a place where spirits drift like gentle shadows and finally lay down their burdens. Every god, every presence, every element of nature takes on this calming quality. It is as though the universe has decided that the softest version of itself is the truest. As you listen, you might feel your own body beginning to mirror that shift. Shoulders easing down, jaw relaxing, breath settling into a slower rhythm. There is a point in every evening when thinking turns to drifting, when the mind becomes like a leaf on water, carried gently without effort. You may be nearing that point now. And if you are, let this story hold you the way Gaia holds the mountains, effortlessly, patiently, without expectation. Far below the night sky, the forests breathe in unison, leaves rustle softly, stirred by breezes that feel like the earth sighing in its sleep. Branches sway gently, little creatures settle into burrows, nests, and hidden corners. Even the rivers seem to quiet, their movements slower and more deliberate, as though they too understand the importance of this peaceful pause. In the villages of the Golden Age, people begin to rest as well. Fires dim, voices lowered to murmurs. Small gatherings break apart as families return to their homes, guided by moonlight and the soft crunch of grass beneath their steps. Inside these homes, a nice, simple, warm, made of earth and wood, there is an atmosphere of deep contentment. Children sleep with faces relaxed, their small hands curled gently by their chests. Elders sit near the final glow of the hearth, their minds drifting toward memory. The warmth of Hestia's flame flickers in the center of each dwelling, steady and unhurried. That flame is a symbol of something timeless, a comfort that doesn't need to be loud to be strong. In the outside world, a new subtlety begins to appear in the air. A kind of hush that feels like blanket-thick fog rolling in, though the sky remains clear. It is the feeling that comes after a long day, the sense that everything is ready to rest. During this quiet, a soft truth rises like a tide, that rest is not a pause from life. It is a part of it, a vital, sacred chapter of existence. Even the gods understand this. Even the earth understands this. Even the stars, in their slow burning glow, seem to embody patience. The myths that once carried excitement, heroism, and great feats now settle into a lullaby of meaning. Their edges smooth, their echoes soften. They become stories told not for thrill, but for comfort. You can imagine an ancient storyteller sitting by the fire, their voice low and even carrying through the quiet dawn. Their listeners, farmers, travelers, children, would lean back, closing their eyes, letting the stories drift around them like a warm breeze. The myths soothed them because they were familiar, because they carried the promise that the world was held by forces older and wiser than themselves. That same promise is here, wrapped in every sentence of this story. As we continue walking through the calm landscape of myth, imagine moving along a gently sloping hill. The grass beneath your feet is cool and soft. The night wind brushes past you, caressing your hair, your face, your hands. In the distance, fireflies pulse with warm light, tiny lanterns blinking gently in the dark. You reach the crest of the hill and pause. Below you lies a valley shaped like a cradle, lined with silver mist that hovers above the ground. A narrow river winds through it, glimmering faintly as it reflects the stars. The water moves slowly, as though respecting the world's desire for peace. Every detail feels tender. Every shadow feels soft. Even the light feels like it has learned to whisper. In this gentle scene, a small realization begins to settle in your chest, that the myths are not separate chapters of history. They are an inner landscape, a reflection of how humans understand their place in the world. A reminder that even chaos at the beginning was not frightening. It was quiet, open, and full of potential. This realization expands through you with the same slow grace as moonlight spreading across the valley. It tells you that life, too, is shaped by soft cycles, beginnings that emerge from stillness, transitions that happen between breaths, discoveries that bloom quietly in the dark, understanding that dawns gradually, like first light slipping into a room. The myths remind us that nothing exists alone. Not mountains, not rivers, not stars, not even you. Everything is held in the same web of connection, stitched by the same gentle threads of fate. And when the world quiets, those threads become easier to feel, like the sensation of a heartbeat slowing, or the comfort of a warm blanket drawn over tired limbs. As the valley below settles deeper into its slumber, the sky overhead grows darker, richer. A few clouds drift lazily across the heavens, illuminated at their edges by moonlight. They move without hurry, following ancient patterns carved into the sky long before words were spoken. And in this stillness, the world seems to whisper one final truth for this chapter. Rest is sacred. Rest is ancient. Rest is woven into the story of the universe. And now, as we prepare to move toward the closing chapters of this journey, the calm deepens like evening sliding toward midnight. Slow, gentle, inevitable. Intas ni kate and told indero intama. Night deepens across the ancient world, spreading like a soft, dark blanket pulled tenderly across the sky. The last traces of twilight fade into the horizon, leaving a gentle hush suspended over the land, one so full, so complete, that even the smallest sound feels rounded, softened by the dark. This is the hour when everything slows to its gentlest rhythm, when the universe seems to say, "You can rest now." Imagine stepping quietly into this nighttime landscape. The air is cool, touched by a faint sweetness from distant groves of wildflowers. The grass under your feet is damp with evening dew, cushioning every step as though the earth itself is tucking you in. The sky above stretches in a vast, endless sweep of darkness, velvet and deep, speckled with stars that glow no brighter than candle flames. Each star feels like a small blessing, soft, patient, unhurried. Somewhere nearby, a breeze passes through tall reeds, creating a whispering sound so gentle it resembles the exhale of someone drifting into sleep. This world, still young but growing wise, carries an atmosphere of profound peace. Every creature, every leaf, every ripple of water seems to understand the sacredness of the hour. This is the descent into night, not as an ending but as a sanctuary. The gods who once shaped the world in bright, vivid strokes move through this darkness with the softness of dreams. Their presence does not disturb, it dulls. Nyx, the ancient night, glides overhead, her long cloak made of the deepest shadow, but there is nothing intimidating in her presence. Instead, she feels maternal, like a hand smoothing the hair of a child as they fall asleep. Her darkness is a protective veil, not a threat. Beside her drifts Hypnos, the personification of sleep. In later myths, he carries mortals into dreams with wings as soft as feathers. In this early world, he is simply a presence, a feeling that gathers behind your eyelids, making them heavy, warm, and content to close. Somewhere deeper still is Thanatos, the idea of rest that lasts longer than a night. But here, in this early realm, he is not frightening. He is a gentle understanding that all things eventually return to stillness, a reminder of peace, not loss. Even the winds seem to hush themselves in their presence. If you listen closely, you can hear the faint sound of waves lapsing against the shore, their rhythm syncing with your breath. Inhale, the wave arrives. Exhale, the wave fades back into the sea. So much of the early world moves this way, mirroring the rise and fall of breath, the pulse of rest, the quiet flow that leads towards sleep. On a distant hill, a solitary olive tree stands against the horizon, its silver leaves catching the starlight in gentle flickers. Olive trees, even in ancient Greece, were symbols of peace, longevity, endurance. But here, in this mythic night, the tree takes on another meaning, the embodiment of calm resilience. A reminder that life, even when still, continues to grow. You might imagine sitting beneath this tree now. The trunk is smooth in some places, textured in others. Its branches stretch above you like comforting arms, shading you from the world without closing you off from it. Through the spaces between its leaves, you glimpse the stars, soft points of light that feel almost close enough to touch. The silence here is not empty. It is full, a warm fullness, like the quiet felt in a library or a chapel or a familiar room at night. It is the silence that invites reflection, not the silence that amplifies loneliness. And in that silence, the myths themselves begin to soften even further. This is the point in the story where the gods are no longer powerful presences walking across the earth. Instead, they are gentle echoes woven into the land. Each god becomes a part of the world's hush. Zeus becomes the stillness of the sky. Poseidon becomes the slow, steady beat of the ocean. Hades becomes the comforting weight of the earth beneath your feet. Aphrodite becomes the warm memory of tenderness you carry in your chest. Apollo becomes the soft glow of a dream. Artemis becomes the protective quiet of the night. Hestia becomes the warmth waiting for you at home. The myths take on their most calming form, not stories of grandeur, but stories of presence. You might imagine yourself lying back on the cool grass, looking up at the sky. Above you, the constellations shimmer faintly, patterns not yet named, their mythic stories not yet fully formed. But the shapes are there, the way faint memories exist before we find words for them. Those early stargazers who looked up at these same shapes thousands of years ago felt what you feel now: wonder, connection, and the serene awareness of belonging to something ancient and vast. The night deepens further, becoming heavier, but not in a way that burdens. It is the heaviness of a warm blanket pulled across your body, the heaviness of eyelids sinking slowly closed, the heaviness that precedes rest. In the distance, a small village glows softly with dying embers of hearth fires. Smoke curls gently into the air, rising in delicate threads that fade into the dark. Families are asleep in their homes, wrapped in quiet dreams. Even the animals rest, sheep curled together for warmth, birds tucked into nests, stray cats perched atop warm stones. Throughout the world, everything moves towards stillness. There is a moment, a beautiful fleeting moment, where time itself seems to pause. The world stops expanding, stops shifting, stops becoming. It simply is, present, whole, resting. That is the heart of this chapter, the return to presence. It's easy in the noise of the modern world to feel pulled in many directions, to feel as though you are racing through moments rather than inhabiting them. But in the early universe, presence was the only state there was. There was no rush, no anxiety about what was next, no pressure to accomplish or perform, only existence, quiet, uncomplicated, alive. You might feel some of that ease now, a loosening, a softening, a clarity that doesn't come from thinking, but from resting. The myths remind us that rest is not passive. It is sacred. It is part of the rhythm of everything: the tides, the seasons, the moon, the cycle of day and night. Even the gods rest, even the stars rest, even the universe rests. And in this calm descent into night, you are invited to rest too. Not out of fatigue, but out of a deep, ancient right to stillness. As the early world falls into sleep, the sky grows darker still, embracing the land like a parent, gathering a child close. A gentle serenity washes through everything, and through you. Your breath flows easily. Your thoughts drift like soft clouds. The world around you holds its peace, and with that, we drift toward the final chapters of this journey, toward meaning, toward resolution, toward deeper sleep. Inamahusam. The night now lies fully settled across the ancient world, deep, gentle, and complete. It is a kind of night that feels almost sacred, as though the universe has dimmed its lights just enough to let everything rest. Even the wind has quieted, flowing through the world in long, soft breaths. The early earth seems to float in its own calm, embraced by a darkness warmer than any blanket. In this softened world, something begins to unfold inside you, a sense that the journey you've taken through myth, time, and creation is circling back, gathering itself neatly into a feeling of belonging, a feeling of homecoming. Just as the gods once stepped softly across the land, their presence now steps softly across your mind. Not to command, not to challenge, simply to remind you of the quiet truths that have been here all along. As you imagine yourself in this ancient landscape, let the calm settle deeper into your body. Let your breath drift in and out with the same rhythm as the quiet sea. Let your thoughts move like small ripples on still water, appearing, expanding, and fading without effort. For many ages, the myths of Greece lived in the minds of those who told them, but over time, they gently step back. Like a lantern whose flame grows softer as dawn approaches. They became memories within memories, echoes held inside books and songs, and yet they never disappeared. Even now, the presence of these ancient stories can be felt in unexpected moments, in the hush of a forest at dawn, in the shimmer of light on water, in the quiet strength you feel when you steady yourself after a long day. Tonight, these myths are not towering figures or dramatic legends. They are gentle companions walking with you towards sleep. They speak not in booming voices, but in soft, steady whispers. Whispers that remind you that everything, every life, every story, every heart belongs to the same quiet continuum. Imagine the world again, moments before the first human stories were ever carved into stone or written on parchment. The gods sit atop Olympus, not in grandeur, but in peaceful observation. The mountain is quiet, its snowy crown glowing faintly under the stars. A slow wind moved through the high pines, carrying the scent of cool air and the soft resin of ancient wood. Below them, humans sleep peacefully. Fires burn low, casting dim golden rings on the ground. Sparks rise lazily into the air like tiny stars returning to the sky. This is the world in its most tender form. The gods, watching from their high sanctuary, do not intervene. They simply keep watch, ensuring that the night remains calm, that the mountains hold their silence, that the seas rest in deep slumber. It is a moment of pure balance. The soft crest between being awake and drifting into dreams. You can imagine sitting on that mountain now, wrapped in a cloak of warm air and quiet. You are neither far from the world nor lost in it. You are exactly where you need to be. You look out across the land and see the shapes of hills and forests, the slow glow of distant fires, the silver thread of rivers winding through the dark. Everything seems both ancient and familiar, and you begin to understand something. The myths were never meant to frighten or overwhelm. They were meant to comfort, to make sense of the sky, to give the world shape, to offer a warm story to hold on to when night felt too large. They were ways of saying, you are not alone under this vast sky. There are stories older than your worries. There is beauty woven into every breath. Perhaps you feel that now, a loosening in your chest, a softening behind your eyes, a quiet certainty that you too are part of this long, gentle lineage of story and sleep. The early Greeks believed that Nyx, the night, wrapped the world in her cloak not to hide it, but to soothe it. They imagined that her darkness was a balm, a bridge to the realm of dreams. In that darkness, the world could heal, life could reset, The mind could wander safely in the lands of imagination. As you lie here, the same cloak of night is wrapped around you. A cloak woven not of fear, but of comfort, of rest, of silence that feels alive and kind. And within that silence comes reflection, not the sharp, demanding kind, but the soft reflection that arises naturally when the world around you grows still. Thoughts drift through your mind like slow-moving clouds, each one gentle, each one touched by starlight. You may think of memories, of childhood nights when the world felt just as safe as this, when falling asleep meant surrendering into something warm and familiar. You may think of people you love, places where you have felt at peace. Moments when the world seemed to pause just long enough for you to breathe deeply. Each memory floats through your mind like a petal carried by a soft breeze. You don't need to hold on to any of them. They move, they pass, they fade, and you remain calm and anchored, connected to something older than memory itself. The heroes of myth, Perseus, Heracles, Theseus, do not appear here in their dramatic stories. They appear only as distant echoes, gentle reminders of courage and resilience. Their tales, too, soften in the presence of night. They become symbols of the human spirit, not of battle, but of endurance, of finding one's way through the long labyrinth of life. And with that softening comes an even deeper realization that every person carries a myth within them, a story shaped by their experiences, their joys, their burdens, their hopes. Your story, too, is part of the tapestry. It doesn't need to be grand. It doesn't need to be heroic. It only needs to be yours. And in this moment of quiet reflection, your story feels beautifully enough. The world's myths have reached a place of rest. The gods have stepped into the gentle shadows of memory. The night holds every corner of the earth with patient tenderness. And you, drifting between waking and dreaming, hover in that peaceful space where everything feels balanced and safe. This is the soft resolution, the gentle closing of the myth before the world fully releases itself to sleep. In this place, beneath a patient sky and among the calm echoes of ancient stories, you are invited to rest, to let go, to drift with the same ease as the first stars that formed above the early earth, to let your breath slow, to let your thoughts dissolve, to allow the night to carry you. And as we move toward the final closing chapter, the world whispers softly around you. You have journeyed far. You are safe. You are held. You may rest now. One day, the night has reached its deepest, gentlest point. It is the hour when even time seems to soften, when minutes drift like feathers, and the world lies perfectly still beneath a sky that feels infinite and kind. The ancient landscape, the early earth shaped by patient gods and quiet forces, rests in a silence deeper than oceans, wider than mountains, older than any memory. This is the quiet that comes after a long exhale, the quiet that follows understanding, the quiet that welcomes sleep. Imagine for a moment the view from the highest peak of Mount Olympus. Not the Olympus of thunderbolts or grand councils, not the Olympus of conflict or noise, but the Olympus of night, a mountain wrapped in a shawl of clouds, a few torches still burning low near the old marble, their flames soft and wavering, a cool wind brushing gently across stone worn smooth by centuries, every sound softened by distance and darkness. You walk slowly across this peaceful summit. Your footsteps make no sound, not because you are light, but because the world has settled into such stillness that even footsteps feel like part of the silence. The torches flicker in the wind. Their flames lean right, then left, then become steady again. Ash drifts upward in delicate spirals, rising into the air until it disappears into the velvet dark. This, too, is a kind of story. A flame that once glowed bright and now fades into the gentlest ending. All around you, the presence of the gods lingers, not loud or overwhelming, but subtle, like leftover warmth. In a room after the fire has gone out, you can almost sense Zeus in the vastness of the sky, Poseidon in the deep rhythm of your breathing, Hades in the grounding solidity beneath your feet, Athena in the soft clarity of your thoughts as they begin to dissolve, Artemis in the glow of moonlight brushing the world silver, Apollo in the faint warmth held in the air even at night, Hestia in the quiet ember of peace inside your chest. They are still here, just quieter, like old friends who have said what they came to say. The myths have done their work. They've carried you across creation, across dawn and dusk, across forests, oceans, and early human hopes. They've wrapped you in symbols older than language. They've shown you a world that grew from calm, not chaos, from patience, not conflict. Now, they step back to let the night carry you the rest of the way. Beneath the sky, your breath deepens. Your body becomes heavier, sinking into the surface beneath you. Bed, blanket, earth, imagine grass. It no longer matters. Everything becomes soft. Everything becomes support. A sense of warmth spreads across your chest and down your shoulders, like the last gentle rays of sunset smoothing over the world. Your hands relax, your jaw loosens, your belly softens, even your thoughts, once bright and busy things, dim themselves like lanterns turned low. And as your mind rests in this slow light, something beautiful happens. The myths begin to dissolve into dreams, not vanishing, just transforming. The way clouds melt into fog, or the way a fire's glow becomes the faintest amber after midnight. You picture the early earth again, but this time it feels different. Softer, blurrier, drifting toward dreamland. The mountains are only silhouettes. The seas are long, dark strokes of calm. The forests are quiet shapes, breathing in slow, synchronized waves. All forms soften at the edges, becoming something between memory and imagination. This is how myths live after their stories end. Not in books, not on stone tablets, but in the drifting space where waking thoughts become dreams. As you stand upon Olympus, the sky above begins to glow in a soft, muted gradient. From deep blue to a pale, blossoming silver. Not dawn, not yet. Just the world preparing for rest in its own ancient way. And you feel a tug, a warm, gentle pull downward, as though the night itself is inviting you to lie down and surrender. You find a place beside one of the marble columns, warm from the day's sun but cool at its edges. The stone feels grounding beneath your hand. The air is crisp, the wind is tender. A few leaves drift lazily across the ground. You lie back, letting the weight of your body sink into the earth, letting your spine unfurl, letting yourself melt into the moment. Above you, the stars begin to blur, not because they are fading, but because your eyes are growing heavy. The constellations tilt. The sky stretches. Your consciousness drifts like a boat on a gentle tide. You feel safe. You feel held. You feel connected to something much larger than yourself. This is the gift of myth. This sense of belonging. of being part of a story older than worry, older than stress, older than the noise of daily life. You feel the presence of Nyx overhead, drawing her soft darkness closer around you. You feel Hypnos brushing your forehead with wings that feel like velvet shadows. You feel the world's pulse syncing with your own, slow, steady, ancient. A warmth gathers behind your heart. A softness gathers behind your eyes. A gentle heaviness gathers in your limbs. Your body knows what to do now. It knows when to rest. It knows when to let go. It knows when a story is bringing it toward peace. And in the quiet of this ancient night, where nothing rushes and everything breathes slowly, a final truth appears. A truth whispered by the universe itself. The most beautiful things arrive in silence. The stars, the dawn, the turning of seasons, healing, peace, sleep. Each one begins softly, almost unnoticed until suddenly it surrounds you. You feel that now. Sleep approaching like a warm tide, thoughts drifting like feathers, the world dimming into softness. As you surrender to that tide, the last embers of Olympus fade. The torches burn low, the gods retreat into memory, the myths drift into the quiet halls of dreams, and you drift deeper, float softer, rest more fully. Before you go, one gentle whisper remains. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a lantern in the dark, and you are part of this warm, quiet night. Whenever you're ready, eyes half closed, breathing slow, you may let the rest of the story fade. Let the night take over. Let sleep rise to meet you. If this quiet journey brought you rest, leave a gentle comment for yourself. And if you'd like more peaceful nighttime journeys, don't forget to subscribe. You're welcome to return here anytime. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. Now, sleep well, sleep deeply, sleep softly under the same ancient sky the gods once walked.